We now move on to the central theme of today's conclave. I invite our first speaker of the day, Shri G. Natarajan Advocate, who will speak on the topic, Role of GST in Promoting Ease of Doing Business, Achievements and Way Forward.
Very good evening to all of you who have gathered here. Thanks to Chennai Outer Commissioner, Shri Nasser Khan, for giving this wonderful opportunity. We have a very great gathering here in the sense we have very senior officers from the department who can contribute in the policy making. We have people from NIC, GSTN who are the backbone of GST. We have the taxpayer community who are at the real end of the system and who day to day deal with the GST. And we, the intermediaries, the bridge between the department and the taxpayers, you can call it as intermediary or whatever it is. So this is a very unique crowd where any meaningful discussion on GST can happen. Otherwise, it will be either a departmental meeting or an assessee meeting or a tax practitioners meeting. But we have an amalgamation of all the three so that it can be really meaningful. Now, 8 years are over with the introduction of GST. 8 years is a milestone for anything. Even our Tamil Nadu superstar has said, a man's life can be split into 8, and for each milestone, you should have a target. So GST is also not an exception. So this is the right time to look back what has happened over the last 8 years and what is going to be the roadmap for the ensuing years. That is the whole purpose of this meeting. If we ask, see the topic on which I am going to deal with, the word ease of doing business is a buzzword today. Everybody will talk about it. Ease of doing business. What is business? If we go by the broad definition of business under the GST law, any economic activity can be considered as a business. That is the wider way in which the word business has been defined under GST. So that way, business forms the backbone of our country. The business forms the soul and essence of our country because the widest coverage given to the term business. So if the business prospers, the country will prosper. If the business is limping, the country also will be limping. So that is the baseline. So it will be the endeavor of every one of us to ensure that doing business in the country is easier. Business operates in a variety of environment. The political environment should be favorable to the business. The economic environment should be favorable to the business. The legal environment should be favorable to the business. And the tax environment should be favorable to the business, with which we are going to talk about today. So while dealing with some of the achievements of GST in ensuring and taking forward the theme of ease of doing business, I will also point out some of the areas which requires to be given much attention. Maybe in the ensuing years, these are all the aspirations of the industry and these are all the aspirations of the tax practitioners like us, and the government should focus on those lines. So with that prelude, if we just move on. The major achievement of GST is the tax awareness among the community. Earlier, in fact, I worked in the same department of Central Excise. When we say that I am working in Central Excise, people will not even know how to pronounce it. They will ask, what? Central Exercise. So that was the tax awareness of our community. But today, that lot of tax awareness has been created among the community. From a auto wala to a cinema hero, everybody talks about GST. So it is very important because it is a source of revenue for the government. The citizen from top to bottom should be aware about the taxation system of the country. That way GST has taken itself to the grassroots of our country. The tax awareness among the citizens has increased multifold. It will have a lot of effect on the country as such. So the awareness. Another biggest advantage which GST has given to us, earlier I was working in Hosur in the department. Hosur is just 30 kilometers away from the Karnataka. But what is Karnataka VAT law? We will not be knowing. And what is the VAT law under Kerala? Nobody will be knowing. So we have to depend on so many people to conduct our business. Today, the wonderful achievement of GST is the GST law is common throughout the country. If your vehicle is detained at Chhattisgarh, no problem. We can file our appeal, we can make our representation from here. The legal provisions are going to be the same throughout the country. This is not a mean achievement. See, so there are so many other areas where it is not possible to get a consensus in our country. NEP may elude consensus. Uniform Civil Code may evade consensus. But economically, GST has brought complete consensus among our country. This is not a small achievement. Think our country with the political aspirations of each and every state. Today, around more than 50 GST meetings have taken place. So many decisions have been taken. All decisions except one are unanimous. Can we imagine it in our country? One legal provision is enacted and it is circulated. All the 29 state governments are following the same. Same circulars are issued. Same amendments are carried out. This is something which can't be imagined in our country, which is otherwise divided on various aspects, region-wise, political-wise. But this economic unity has become a possibility only because of GST, for which we have to thank all the people who have worked tirelessly for more than 25 years in the past to bring about it. It is not a mean achievement. We all of us are the stakeholders in it, and we all take pride in saying that we have successfully implemented GST and also crossed 8 years of GST without any major hitches. Yes, there are some flip sides. There are some day-to-day problems. There are ways and means how to deal with it. We will come to that later. But this is a major achievement of GST. And as we all know, the various bottlenecks on availing input tax credit. I am a VAT dealer. I cannot take credit of central excise duty. I cannot take credit of service tax. I am a service provider. I cannot take credit of central excise duty. Maybe central excise was allowed, but I cannot take VAT credit. All these barriers have been removed substantially. Still, there are some areas for improvement. We will see that later. But this integration of the supply chain and extension of ITC benefit is unimaginable. That is one of the major achievements. This benefit of this will ultimately go to the consumer in the form of price reduction. This is another major achievement which was possible only because of the introduction of GST. And our reliance on technology, it has some pitfalls. We face some problems, but the technology is going to revolutionize the GST compliance in the coming days. Definitely, I don't know after 10 years or maybe after 5 years, whether there will be any job for me, I don't know. The way the technology has been advancing, the way things are getting auto-populated. See, imagine 26 AS. When TDS provisions were there from income tax, how much of mismatch problems we used to have. But today 26 AS has become such a pakka implementation. So same thing will happen one day in GST. All the data is going to be auto-populated and the role of human intervention is going to be very, very less. Yes, the road is painful. We have to suffer a lot day to day. But if you look at from a long-term perspective, the way a GST has embraced the technology, that is going to do wonders in a long run. Definitely, we have some issues, we have some problems, but keeping the larger interest in mind, the embracing of technology by the GST is another major big achievement. And we have the GST Council, where each state government is a party, the central government is also a party. They have a unique voting pattern. The central government cannot unilaterally, even though the central government's voting power is 67%, to pass any resolution, we need a 75% majority. So without the help of at least a minimum 9 to 10 state governments, the central government cannot decide anything. And even if all state governments come together, they cannot decide anything. Such a beautiful composition of GST Council and more than 50 meetings in the 8th year, which works out to more than 6 meetings in a year. At least one GST meeting every 2 months. So that is the intellectual stimulation which is happening in our country, and because of that, whatever is the grievances, whatever is the problem, if it is brought to the notice of the GST Council, if the problems are genuine, all these things are addressed. In fact, it has got its flip side also. Earlier, any changes in tax rate will happen only once in a year. On budget day, we will be very busy. We can't even sleep on that day. But today, whenever there is a GST Council meeting, it is a budget, and so many changes, so many notifications are coming. On the one hand, people may ask, if so many changes are brought about, how it is possible for anybody to follow? But at the same time, we should also look into the fact all these changes, amendments and clarifications only shows that the governments are responsive. They are willing to hear. They are willing to hear the problem and try to find out the solutions. In the process, so many amendments are bound to happen. So these are all the major achievements which the GST has brought about in our country. At the same time, as taxpayers, we will see some of the major changes which have been made. On the valuation provisions, we always had the related party valuation was always a problem. The price adopted between related parties will not be accepted by the government at all. But now, the related party valuation provisions have been simplified in GST to a greater extent. If the receiving person is eligible to take input tax credit, why do you fight on valuation? If you value it at 10 rupees, you pay tax, he is going to take credit. If you value it at 100 rupees and pay the tax, he is going to take the credit. Ultimately, who is gaining because of this fight of valuation? It is only we. We are only gaining. Neither the assessee nor the government. And this is a major bonanza for the government, for the tax-paying community, where the related party valuation provisions have been simplified to a greater extent. Whatever value you declare, if you say it is 0, we will accept it as a 0. If you say it as 1 rupee, we will accept it as 1 rupee, because whatever tax you pay, your other company is going to take the credit. So avoiding unnecessary litigation. This is one of the major achievement which I can point out with the introduction of GST. And coming to what is there for our agenda for the next 8 years, I am very fortunate to have very senior officers attending this meeting who can really make a contribution and listen to all the issues and definitely contribute towards a better tax compliance system. The GST, the fundamental principle behind the GST is the input tax credit should be seamless. In the entire supply chain, the input tax credit should pass through so that the ultimate consumer gets the product at a reasonable price. There is no cascading of taxes. There is no tax on taxes. The input tax credit should flow freely. That is the fundamental principle of GST. But we have not yet reached that goal till now. Still there are areas. I don't say that in 2017 itself, this problem should have been solved 100%. It is not possible. We have to go step by step, and having crossed 8 years, this is the right time to think about what should be the next step. According to me, the next step should be, one problem today what the trading community faces is, if you avail any goods or services from the other state, where CGST and SGST is paid in the other state, I am not eligible to take the input tax credit. I go and stay in a hotel in Delhi. I go to Delhi for a business purpose. I stay in a hotel. The hotel will charge CGST and Delhi SGST. I have a registration in Tamil Nadu. I am not able to take the credit. At least SGST we can understand. But CGST is under a central single enactment. Why he should not be allowed to take the CGST paid in Delhi as a taxpayer? And why not the Delhi SGST also? So according to me, even if it is a Delhi SGST, taxpayer should not be burdened. He should be given the credit. And how to do the adjustment between the Delhi government and Tamil Nadu government, that should be done at the back end by the GSTN and NIC. So then only the real goal of GST we will be achieving. As a taxpayer, it does not matter to me whether it is Tamil Nadu SGST or Delhi SGST. Tax is a tax, and I want credit for the tax. So definitely, this is not possible in the first 8 years because a lot of other repercussions are there. So our agenda for the next 8 years should be why the SGST credit of other states should be barred. Why even the SGST credit in other states should be barred. So that should be made available, and whatever adjustment should be done by the government between the respective state governments, that should be done at the back end. So this is one of our earnest request to the policymakers of the government. Then, another issue which is bothering the taxpayers as well as tax practitioners, certainty in tax is very important. Even the Supreme Court has also said there should be certainty in taxation. There should be no uncertainty. Especially when it comes to the question of indirect taxation, certainty is very important, because today I believe my tax is 5%. And after 5 years, if the department is going to come and tell that it is not 5% but 12%, I cannot go back to my buyer and collect the differential tax. So certainty is important. So what is one impediment in this certainty is the approach towards the retrospective legislation. So retrospective legislation per se is bad, especially in indirect taxation. It is further bad. It offset all our calculations. It offset all business plans. We all fight cases. We go up to Supreme Court. Supreme Court says something, and then turning the clock back and making a retrospective amendment. That should not be present, and we don't want to see any further retrospective amendments in the next 8 years of GST. Because the impact of retrospective legislation it has on the industry is very bad. In fact, our Prime Minister has assured the business community several times there will not be a retrospective amendment. But unfortunately, yes, mistakes bound to happen. Drafting a law is a complex business. It is very difficult. Anybody can commit mistake. If a mistake is found out by a court and found and identified, we should correct the mistake prospectively and not retrospectively. So this retrospective amendment in a taxation law is a very big impediment for business. So if you really want to achieve ease of doing business, there should be a reassurance by the government that there will not be any retrospective amendments under the GST law. Then I want to see subsection 5 of section 17 out of the GST Act in the next 8 years. Why at all there should be a blocked credit? My question is, if at all I have to take 18 rupees of ITC, I have to purchase something by spending 118 rupees. No prudent person will spend 118 rupees only to gain 18 rupees. That is the baseline. So any expenditure incurred by the business is in relation to business. There should not be any negative blockage of credit at all. Of course, this is not possible at the time of introduction of GST. All the revenue calculations, everything will go awry. But now in 8 years, we are stabilized. We know what is our revenue. We know what is the growth of our revenue. So in the next 8 years, I want the subsection 5 of section 17 should be out of the statute book. So all expenditure done by the company should be allowed the credit, because nobody will spend 118 rupees to gain 18 rupees credit. Of course, fraud and other things are there. That's a different issue. We are all talking only about the majority of the taxpayers. But this should be the agenda for the next 8 years. And another issue which requires the attention of the government and which should engage the attention of the government for the next 8 years is the cross empowerment. See, under S2I law, as a central excise, we are under the central government. Service tax was under the central government. VAT was under the state government. So the whole aim of GST is to unify the control. In fact, if we see the minutes of the earlier GST council meetings, there was a proposal, either the taxpayer will come either under center or under state. Dual jurisdiction will not be there. But for various reasons, for various control reasons, dual jurisdiction and cross empowerment has been introduced. Section 6 talks about cross empowerment. A central officer has got jurisdiction over the state and a state officer has got jurisdiction over central. No problem. But the same section talks about subject to suitable conditions and safeguards. Those safeguards have not been prescribed till now. What is the minimum safeguard we expect is, in this year, if I am subjected to audit by the state government, there should be no visit by the central government, at least in this year. Let them come next year. If there is an investigation or a preventive visit conducted by the central government in this year, at least spare me from another investigation by the state government during the same financial year. This is the minimum safeguard which everybody, taxpayer, should be expecting the government to follow in the next. Because this multiple visits and multiple agencies, audit, preventive, we are not undermining the efforts of the government to check tax evasion. But we have a window. There is a time limit available for the government to take action. So even doing away with the cross empowerment may be my agenda for the third 8 year. We may have to completely do away with the cross empowerment, maybe it's a long-term agenda, but at least in the next 8 years, this cross empowerment, the minimum requirement is there should be an assurance to the taxpayer. If you are audited by one government, the other government will not come to you at least during that financial year. So this is, I want to put forward as one more aspirations from the industry. Then, one unique feature we have under GST law, if I'm crossing my time, please tell. GST law, even though we are the same company is having different registrations in different states, they are treated as distinct person. Same company in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, they are treated different persons under GST law. And any transfer happening between those units, it is treated as a supply. It is not, no price is paid. When I do stock transfer from Tamil Nadu to Karnataka, the Karnataka is not going to pay me because it is the same entity, but it is deemed as a supply. Even though there is no consideration, tax is payable. Why? Because otherwise the credit chain will be broken. I have a manufacturing unit in Tamil Nadu. I take all the ITC in Tamil Nadu, like our Hyundai. But Hyundai cars are sold throughout the country. So they stock transfer the cars to Karnataka. When they sell the car in Karnataka, they have to pay tax in Karnataka. All the ITC is accumulating in Tamil Nadu, tax liability is in all other state. So to maintain the input tax chain, this deeming fiction becomes necessary. But it is necessary only for goods, not for services. So even for services, the distinct person concept is now applied, because of which there is something called cross charge. Your head office is helping your unit. All head office salary should be apportioned to all the branches. You have to raise a cross charge invoice. How to value that? All these complications are arising unnecessarily. So in my humble view, and which will be endorsed by the taxpayers also mostly, this deeming fiction of treating different registrations as a distinct person is very much essential for goods. But for services, I cannot visualize any valid reason why the inter-C services between head office and branch office, why not a blanket exemption can be given, so that all this cross-charging, valuation, all those complications can be avoided. I may be losing many cases, that's a different issue, but having enriched at the cost of GST, at least I should pay back something to the society. So this is one area which I request all the senior officers of the government to ponder over, and maybe in the next 8 years we can think of giving an exemption to services between the distinct persons. So that is another aspiration from the industry. One more issue, if many services or many supplies are liable under reverse charge. One is the live example, advocates are under reverse charge. Because we are all blessed so much. Because most of our finance ministers are advocates. Nobody wants to tax the advocate. So once it is an advocate tax, they will put it under a reverse charge. So what happens, don't think that I am highlighting this point for my own benefit, certainly not. So any supply which is treated as, which is liable under reverse charge is considered as an exempt supply in the hands of the taxpayer. Section 17 says the tax, if it is payable by the reverse charge, it will be treated as an exempt supply in the hands of the supplier. So what happens? The supplier cannot take any ITC, but the supply is not perfectly, totally exempted. Instead of the supplier paying the tax, the recipient is going to pay the tax. Appropriate tax is paid to the government, but the ITC chain is breaking at the supplier's hand. So going back to the intention of GST, unblocked ITC chain till the consumption point. So this treatment of RCM supplies as exempt supply should be removed. So the supplier should be made entitled to take the credit. What will he do with the credit? If he has any other supply, he will use the credit for payment of tax. If he is not having any other supply, refund should be given. In fact, this provision was there even under service tax law. Rule 5B of Senvan credit rule said, in fact, it was introduced at the fag end of the year and it was not implemented. But there was a rule 5B under the Senvan credit rules, which deals with this situation. So another aspirations on the occasion of this completion of 8 years of GST is RCM should not be treated as exempt supply, and whoever is providing supplies which are leviable under RCM, they should be given the credit, and if they are not able to use the credit, they should be given the refund. All this will go a long way in doing ease of doing business, and at the end of it, the cost of any supply will come down and the benefit will only go down to the ultimate consumer. Another suggestion which we have been talking about and raising in all the forums for the past 2-3 years. Today, the major problem faced by small industries, the GST compliance, cancellation of registration, non-filing of return registration is cancelled. All the root cause of the problem is any supplier, they get the payment from their customers only after a period of time. Even the MSME Act says 45 days credit period is allowed. Non-MSE sector, it is furthermore. If it is a big client, excuse me, Mr. Hyundai, when we are doing services to big people, the credit period is more. We get the payment after 60 days. We get the payment after 90 days. But whatever invoices raised in that month, I have to pay the tax on 20th of the next month. This causes serious cash flow problems for the industry. So first month, they are not able to pay the tax. It is delayed. Interest, late fee. The problem is compounded, and we know many hundreds of industries have been closed down because of this problem in MSE sector. They don't want to evade the taxes, but it is a cash flow problem. So the solution lies in, today the GST law says, anybody taking ITC, you should pay back to your supplier within 180 days. If you do not pay within 180 days, you have to reverse the credit. This is what section 16 says. My question is, why should GST law compel me to make payment to the supplier within a particular days? It is governed by contract. It is governed by MSME Act. We don't want the GST Act to tell me when I should pay to my supplier. But GST law should be concerned about GST collection. So if this provision is amended to the effect that anybody who is availing ITC, you should pay that GST amount to your supplier within 15 days, not 180 days. Bill amount you pay whenever you want, or based on the contract terms. We are not bothered. We, in the sense, the government is not bothered. But if you are taking ITC and enjoying the benefit of ITC, pay that ITC amount to your supplier within 15 days, so that on 20th he will have money to pay the GST. This will go a long way in improving the compliance. The major problem today faced by the industry, because we are in the field, we know the genuine problem faced by the small industry and MSME is a cash flow problem. Many industries are finding it difficult. If you default for 1 month, you cannot come over it at all. The problem gets compounded. Once you do not file the return, you will be disabled from filing your GSTR1. Your supplier will not get the credit. He will stop your business. You have GST problem. I will not deal with you. My orders are cancelled. People are going out of business. The root cause of that is this cash flow problem. One simple amendment. Instead of saying 180 days you have to pay the bill amount to the supplier, if it is amended to the effect that if you are taking ITC, pay the tax amount to the supplier within 15 days, that will go a long way in really ensuring ease of doing business, especially for small businesses and MSME sector. Yeah, I think given the very short time available, these are all the major issues which I was able to point out. Yes, no doubt, GST has achieved a lot. GST has brought out a lot of ease of compliances. We have some flip side. On the one hand, we say that all the checkposts have been abolished. But at least earlier we know where is the checkpost. But today, everywhere there is a checkpost, vehicles are stopped. So these are all the real problems which we are faced in the industry. Government is also trying its level best. So many circulars have been issued. In what situation you have to impose penalty, in what situation you should not impose penalty. But at the cutting edge level, at the field level, these are all issues. But we all learned how to live with. We are married to GST. So we are married. Once you are married, you have to live with it. So we have all learned to live with GST. So we will continue to live with GST very happily. But going forward, in the next few years, we expect the government to come out with major reforms on some of the areas which we have indicated, which will go a very long way. And let it not be one single meeting where we all discuss and go back. Let it be a continuous efforts on all our part to improve tax compliance in the country and better tax administration. So now, Customarily, if I quote our saint poet Thiruvalluvar, Arulodum Anbodum Vara Porul Akam. Arulodum Anbodum Vara Porul Akam. Puralar Purala Vidal. What is trying to say is something for the citizen. Whoever wants to earn wealth, you should do it with Arul. You should do it with Anbu. So you should not do any wealth maximization without Arul and Anbu. This is the advice given by the Thiruvalluvar to a common man. How to earn money, how to maximize your wealth. But the same principle will apply to the sovereign also. My humble request is, when the sovereign is levying the taxes, do it with Arul, that is righteousness, rule of law and justice, and with love and compassion. So if that is going to be the guiding factor, all of us will be happy. We all will be happy living in this country. So with this, I thank Chennai Outer Commissionerate for giving me this wonderful opportunity to interact with all of you. I thank all my ex-colleagues in the department and all the people who have turned out here. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. From central excise to GST, or rather central exercise, as you said in jest, to GST, it has been a very long journey. Thank you for putting forth the various issues with great clarity. Hope your aspirations and expectations for the business community are met with soon. It's now I request our Commissioner to present a memento to our dignitaries and esteemed speakers of the day.